I had a thought about Homeland Security and stuff and
Okay.
big disasters. My concern is an evacuation plan. In other words, something you come up and you might want to evacuate the whole city within the day.
Right.
My thought is the best way to do that is walk out. In other words, don't have parents running all over town collecting kids in their cars and doing this, that, and the other. Have them be taken walking on Interstate or Kellogg straight out of town, and in about 8 hours, those children could all be 16 miles clear. Okay? Have to take some water with them, you know, and they can go without eating for a few days if need be. Have them all have ID bracelets available on their person and put those on when they started walking and stay together. Okay? Now, something like this, the mayor of New Orleans, with all those poor people in the ghetto, you know, if he'd gotten on the radio and said, listen, everybody, we're all going to walk to the high ground out of New Orleans, leaving tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, okay? Bring water, a gallon jug or something. I want everybody to walk with me. I'm not going to walk in front of you or behind you, but I'm the mayor, and I'm going to walk with you to high ground, okay? Then we will have saved a lot of lives and shown a little bit of what we need to do to be prepared for emergencies of any kind. It could be a bomb scare, you know, that we don't know what to do with. You might have to say, leave town, but if we all have a plan, in effect, every hour of the day, you know, if school's in session, stay in your classroom and have that teacher lead you to Kellogg and head west, you know. Those kids can cover 15 or 16 miles in a day.
It's a good idea. We'll talk to Randy about it. We'll see what he thinks.
Okay.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you very much. I think it's very interesting to consider and talk about the whole idea of evacuation.
Right.
As a matter of fact, since Hurricane Katrina last fall, that's been a very, very big topic of conversation with our counterparts at the state and federal government and the Department of Homeland Security. Fortunately, there are several differences in our area as compared to a coastal area. For one thing, right off the bat, since we're in the middle of the United States, we actually have 4 clear directions in which we can travel, unlike a coastal area which really only has one direction it can travel away from the coast. So I think just right off the top of the figuring there in that issue. Now, interestingly enough, we talk about the idea of walking. We've done quite a bit of study of the census data of this area, and one of the things that we know based off census data is 94% of the population of Sedgwick County has access to a vehicle. So basically that leaves 6% of the county that does not have access to the vehicle. We're talking roughly 500,000 people population here in Sedgwick County, so the 6% is a fairly small figure in terms of overall folks. We just did some rough estimating the other day, and between the school buses from Durham School Bus Service and the buses from Wichita Mass Transit, we actually have enough seating in terms of transportation that we could accommodate 100% of the population of Sedgwick County.
That's amazing.
Now, we realize that there are fluctuations in that. For example, we understand on a day-to-day basis not 100% of the vehicles that are present in Sedgwick County are going to be operational. Some of them are going to be broken down, they're going to have a flat tire, they're going to be in for an oil change or whatever. But basically, we believe that we have a good grasp on how we would move folks out. Now, the bigger question really behind this whole evacuation thing is, why would we have to evacuate an entire area, for example, all of Sedgwick County or all of Wichita? We look back again to our hazards, and our top 5 natural hazards are not hazards that would tend to indicate that we'd have a need to evacuate a whole large area. Typically, we know where the flooding areas are. Typically, a tornado, as bad as it is, hits a very defined area, and when the warnings come out, they're accompanied with information about where the tornado is and where it's moving. Earthquakes, I'm not sure it's entirely appropriate to evacuate for an earthquake, and drought is such a slow-moving disaster that, I'm not sure evacuation is appropriate. So based off our primary natural hazards, I'm not sure that evacuation would be the first choice for us.
Which is good news.
Yeah, that's good news. Now, interestingly enough, if we look into some of the other hazards, for example, hazardous materials, which falls under technological hazards or man-made hazards, there we have a real specific choice that we look at anytime there's one of those incidents. We look at, is it better to evacuate people out of the area, or is it better to have them shelter in place? Shelter in place is a philosophy that we utilize with a lot of hazardous materials incidents, because a person can go inside their house, shut their doors and windows, turn off their air conditioning for a fairly short period of time, especially this time of year, as hot as it is, and the odds are that that chemical will not penetrate inside the house in a sufficient amount before it disperses. So that's one of the first things we always look at anytime there's a hazardous materials incident, based on the material involved, the weather conditions, whether it's sunny, whether it's hot, whether the wind's blowing, things that would cause the chemical to disperse quickly. If that's the case, then we would lean toward shelter in place.
That's good to know. That's a lot of good news, by the way. I believe Sammy. Hello. Line 2.
Dr. Seyam?
Sammy. Is this Sammy?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about what's going on in the Middle East. I don't know if this is a good time to ask this question.
Go ahead. Otherwise, Rush Limbaugh is going to give you all the answers.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, good. I have 3 questions here, very simple question, and I would really appreciate you answer them, you or your guest.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Okay, here's the first question. Do you believe that this war is disproportionate? My other question is, what do you think about the cause of all this mess in the Middle East? And my third question is, which is the most important question, is it true that this war is a United States war and that Israel is executing on behalf of the United States? And that's it.
Are you with the FBI?
No,
Hey,
I'm not.
Okay, thanks so much. I'll answer your questions frankly, very candidly. Disproportionate. Actually, what caused the whole conflict is, let's go back to the cause. Hezbollah kidnapped 2 Israeli soldiers. Okay, basically, as a reaction to that, we have this war. A week or 2 weeks before that time, the Hamas, or I believe Hamas, or one of the Palestinian group has kidnapped 1 Israeli soldier who was originally from France. And we can see the escalation and retaliation even until today in Gaza Strip. But again, I think something that a lot of people do know, and many people will not let you know, or they do not even tell you or share this information with you, is in the Israeli prisons there are 9,000 Palestinian prisoners. Okay? The Israelis, the soldiers, yesterday kidnapped the Secretary Council of the Palestinian Authority. I mean, kidnapping is something that's going on over there by the Israeli government. And again, as I said, there are 9,000 Palestinian prisoners. Those are civilians in the prisons of Israel. What was the retaliation? I mean, now we see a big war. We've lost a lot of Israelis, good citizens, good people on both sides, to free 2 people. So I think that's where we are. The root cause, I think, of this conflict is the word occupation. And that's something you're not going to hear anywhere else. Even Larry King is not going to tell you this, because people are just cowards and they're not candid. as long as we have occupation. I mean, this situation has been like this since 1948. So as long as we have occupation, no democracy or nothing is gonna, no matter what president we have in the U.S.,